Welcome to What If? The stories for your sleep. Tonight we descend into a quiet mystery. Imagine a morning where the only sound is your own breath. A world where every friendly face, every distant noise has inexplicably disappeared. Settle in, let your body rest as we explore what it means to be alone in the silence. Chapter 1: The Unbearable Stillness. The first thing you register is the silence, not the gentle quiet of early morning where distant bird song might thread through the stillness, or the hushed rumble of a far-off delivery truck. This is an absolute void, a thick, pressing silence that feels like cotton wool stuffed into the ears of the world. It is the kind of silence that makes your own heartbeat, thudding with a sudden, inexplicable anxiety, seem deafening. You lie in bed, eyes still closed, trying to place the wrongness. Your digital alarm clock usually chirps a soft, insistent melody at 7 a.m. It hasn't. Sunlight, warm and insistent, presses against your eyelids. That feels normal. But the silence. The silence is a living entity, vast and unnerving. Slowly you open your eyes. Your bedroom is exactly as you'd left it. A book lay face down on your nightstand. The starless sea, its cover a swirl of deep blues and golds. Your phone rests beside its screen dark. A half-empty glass of water. The familiar crack in the ceiling that looks vaguely like a leaping cat. Everything is mundane, ordinary, except for the suffocating blanket of quiet. You reach for your phone, your fingers fumbling slightly. The screen flares to life. 9:41 a.m. A jolt goes through you. You've overslept by nearly 3 hours, something you rarely do even on weekends. And then the second anomaly strikes. No notifications. No missed calls from your mother, who always calls if she hasn't heard from you by mid-morning. No relentless cascade of work emails. No pings from social media. Nothing. The notification bar is starkly, unnervingly empty. A knot of unease tightens in your stomach. You swing your legs out of bed, your bare feet meeting the cool wood of the floor. The small sounds of your own movement, the rustle of sheets, the soft thud of your feet seem to echo in the stillness, amplified and out of place. "Mom," you call out, your voice raspy from sleep, sounding small and lost in the oppressive quiet. No answer. Of course, your mother lives across town, but the habit is ingrained. You pad to your window, pulling aside the heavy linen curtain. The street below, usually a bustling artery of city life even on a Saturday, is utterly deserted. Parked cars line the curbs, gleaming in the morning sun, but not a single vehicle is in motion. No pedestrians hurry along the sidewalks. No cyclists weave through traffic that isn't there. The cafe across the road, the Daily Grind, famous for its weekend brunch queues, has its striped awning extended, tables and chairs set out on the pavement, but they are all empty. A single pigeon struts along the edge of a flower box, its cooing, if it makes any, swallowed by the silence. "This isn't right," you whisper, the words feeling heavy and strange on your tongue. You dress quickly, pulling on jeans and a sweater, your movements becoming more urgent. You check your phone again. Still nothing. No signal bars, though it usually has full service here. Network unavailable. Your apartment is small, just 2 rooms and a tiny kitchen, but it feels cavernous in the silence. You move through it, calling out, "Hello? Anyone?" Your voice is a fragile thing, easily absorbed by the stillness. The tap drips in the kitchen, a rhythmic plink, plink, plink that is now the loudest sound in your world. You turn it off, hard, the silence rushing back in to fill the void. even more absolute than before. The front door of your apartment building is unlocked. The hallway, usually smelling of old carpet and the faint aroma of whatever your neighbors are cooking, is just still. Dust motes dance in the sunbeams slanting through the grimy window at the end of the corridor. You descend the creaking wooden stairs, each step a pronouncement in the quiet. Outside, the city is a perfectly preserved tableau of a moment just past. A newspaper lay open on a park bench, its pages ruffling slightly in a breeze you can't feel on your skin. A child's red ball sat forlornly in the middle of a deserted playground, its bright color a stark contrast to the muted stillness. Shop doors were ajar, lights on inside, displays meticulously arranged. It is as if everyone everywhere has simply evaporated. Mid-stride, mid-sentence, mid-sip of coffee, panic, cold and sharp, begins to prickle at the edges of your composure. This isn't a prank. This isn't a holiday you'd forgotten. This is something profoundly, terrifyingly wrong. You are alone. Utterly, completely alone in the silent city. Chapter 2. Echoes in the Asphalt. The first few hours are a blur of frantic, disbelieving exploration. You walk, then run through the streets of your neighborhood, your calls of hello and is anyone there, bouncing off the silent buildings and returning to you unanswered. Each street is a perfect, frozen diorama. Cars are parked haphazardly, some with doors ajar, as if their occupants had intended to return in a moment. In a bakery, croissants lay cooling on racks, the scent of yeast and sugar still faintly perfuming the air. But the baker is gone. A half-poured latte sits on the counter of the daily grind, a delicate foam heart slowly dissolving. The silence is an active presence, a weight that presses down on you. It amplifies the smallest sounds you make. The scuff of your sneakers on the pavement, the jingle of keys in your pocket, the raggedness of your own breathing. You find yourself trying to move more quietly, as if not to disturb the profound, unnatural peace. Your phone remains useless, a sleek black brick. You try the landline in a corner store. The receiver is dead, no dial tone, just more silence. Radios, whether in cars or shops, hiss with static or offer nothing at all. It isn't a power outage. Street lights are on. Traffic signals cycled through their lonely sequence of red, amber, green governing streets, utterly devoid of motion. The infrastructure of the world is intact, humming along on autopilot. Only the people are missing, as the sun climbs higher, casting long, sharp shadows that seem to deepen the emptiness. A new kind of fear begins to set in. This isn't just a localized event. The sheer scale of it is dawning on you. You climb to the roof of your apartment building, a 5-story walk-up, and gaze out over the cityscape. Towers of glass and steel glint in the sun. Avenues stretch into the distance. Parks lay like emerald patches, all silent, all still. No smoke rises from chimneys, no planes trace white lines across the vast blue sky. The world is holding its breath. Hunger eventually gnaws its way through your panic. You venture into a small supermarket, its automatic doors sighing open as you approach. A sound so startlingly normal, it makes you jump. Inside, the aisles are perfectly stocked. Music, a bland, looped instrumental piece, played softly from ceiling speakers. A tiny island of sound in the ocean of silence. It is almost comforting until you realize its mindless repetition only highlighted the absence of human chatter, of beeping scanners, of rattling carts. You take what you need, bottled water, energy bars, a can of fruit, leaving a $20 bill on the counter, a futile gesture of normalcy in a world that has shed its meaning. The act feels foolish, yet you can't bring yourself to simply take. Days begin to blur into a disorienting cycle of exploration, scavenging, and an ever-deepening solitude. You move out of your small apartment into a larger, more luxurious one in a high-rise, purely for the view, for the illusion of not being quite so ground level with the emptiness. You learn to navigate the silent city. Using a bicycle you find propped against a wall. You learn which stores have the longest lasting packaged goods, which buildings have accessible rooftops for stargazing. The stars, at least, are still there, cold and distant and uncaring, but present. The silence, however, remains your constant companion. It is in the rustle of leaves in an empty park, a sound now as loud as a shout. It is in the creak of a sign swinging in the wind, the distant clang of something falling in an abandoned building. These small sounds, once lost in the urban cacophony, are now stark and significant, each one a potential sign, a flicker of hope that always inevitably led to nothing. You start talking to yourself, narrating your actions, asking questions aloud just to hear the timbre of a human voice, even if it is only your own. The silence rushes in to swallow your words, making them feel insignificant, foolish. Sometimes you think you hear things. A faint snatch of music from a distant apartment, a muffled shout, the slam of a door. Your heart leaps, a wild, desperate bird in your chest, and you race towards the sound, only to find nothing. An open window, a radio left on, the wind playing tricks. These sound ghosts, as you begin to call them, are almost worse than the silence itself. Tiny, cruel pinpricks of hope in an endless expanse of despair. You begin to map the city not for navigation, you know it well, but as a way to impose order on the chaos, to feel a sense of purpose. You mark sources of food, water, potential shelter, places you have thoroughly searched. Your map grows, a spiderweb of lines and notes, a testament to your lonely, methodical existence. One afternoon, weeks into your solitude, you are losing track of the exact number of days, time itself feeling warped and elastic. You are cycling through a residential area, the kind with neat lawns and picket fences. From an open window of a pretty blue house, you hear it clearly, the distinct melodic notes of a piano. Not a recording, but the slightly hesitant, imperfect sound of someone playing. Your breath hitches, your heart hammers against your ribs. This is different. This feels real. You skid to a halt, dropping the bicycle, and run towards the house, your sneakers pounding on the silent pavement. "Hello," you cry, your voice cracking. "Hello. Is anyone there?" You burst through the open front door into a sun-drenched living room. A grand piano stands by the window, its dark wood gleaming, and it is playing a simple, poignant melody, a piece by Debussy you vaguely recognize. But the piano bench is empty. The keys rise and fell as if pressed by invisible fingers. You stare, your hope collapsing like a pricked balloon, leaving behind a cold, hollow ache. You walk slowly towards the instrument. It is a player piano, an old-fashioned one, but it is on. A roll of music is slowly unfurling. It had been set to play, perhaps just before everyone vanished. Or perhaps it had started on its own, another ghost in this silent, haunted world. You sink onto the edge of a dusty armchair, the music washing over you, beautiful and heartbreakingly sad. How had it started? Not the piano, but this terrible, silent emptiness. What had happened to everyone? And why? Why are you the only one left behind? The music plays on, a lonely echo in a world devoid of listeners, save for you. Chapter 3: The Weight of Memory. The silence doesn't just amplify the small sounds of the physical world, it amplifies the sounds within your own mind. Memories, once soft, background hums, now play on a continuous loop, vivid and insistent. You remember the exact cadence of your father's laugh, a deep, rumbling sound that always made you smile. You can almost feel the scratchy wool of your grandmother's favorite cardigan as you'd hugged her. The arguments with your sister, once sources of fleeting frustration, now replay with a poignant clarity. The lost opportunity for reconciliation, a fresh, sharp pain. In the vast, echoing emptiness of the city, these memories become your only companions. You hold conversations with them, replaying favorite moments, asking questions you'd never voiced, offering apologies you'd never made. It is a fragile defense against the encroaching madness of utter solitude, a way to populate your barren world with the ghosts of those you'd loved. You find yourself gravitating towards places that hold strong personal significance. Your old elementary school, its brightly colored murals faded but still cheerful, its playground eerily still. You sit on one of the swings, pushing off gently, the creak of the chains, a mournful sound in the quiet. You remember scraped knees, whispered secrets with best friends, the comforting presence of your third-grade teacher, Mrs. Davison, who always smelled faintly of lavender and chalk dust. Where is Mrs. Davison now? Where are Sarah and Emily, your childhood confidants? You visit the university library, where you'd spent countless hours studying, the scent of old paper and floor polish still clinging to the air. The books sit silently on their shelves, repositories of a million stories, a million voices now unread, unheard. You run your fingers along their spines, a physical connection to a world of thought and imagination that feels impossibly distant. You pull a volume of poetry from a shelf, one you'd loved in your literature class, and read aloud. Your voice hesitant at first, then growing stronger as you fill the silent, vaulted space with the rhythm and beauty of the words. For a fleeting moment, the loneliness recedes, replaced by the shared experience of art. But when you finish, the silence that rushes back in is heavier, more profound. The city's art museum becomes another refuge. You wander its grand, empty halls for hours, gazing at masterpieces. The Impressionists, with their sun-dappled landscapes and vibrant portrayals of bustling Parisian life, are almost painful to look at, a stark reminder of the vibrant, peopled world that is gone. You find more solace in the abstract Expressionists, their canvases filled with raw emotion, with color and form that seem to speak to the chaos and desolation you feel within. You sit on a velvet bench before a Rothko, its vast fields of color seeming to shift and breathe, and simply let yourself feel the grief, the fear, the aching loneliness. One day, exploring a part of the city you rarely visit, a quiet, older district with narrow cobbled streets and tall, thin houses, you find a small, independent cinema. The marquee, its letters askew, still advertises a classic film festival. On a whim, you go inside. The lobby is dark, smelling of stale popcorn and dust. The ticket booth is empty, a roll of tickets still in the dispenser. You push open the doors to one of the smaller theaters. It is pitch black. Fumbling for the light switch you remember from your teenage job at a different cinema, you find a panel by the door. A single switch, brings up the dim house lights. Rows of plush velvet seats face a dark screen. Driven by a strange impulse, you make your way to the projection booth. It is unlocked. The projectors are old, film-based, but one is threaded, a can labeled Casablanca sitting beside it. It takes you nearly an hour, deciphering the faded instructions and your own hazy memories. But finally, with a whir and a click, the projector springs to life. A beam of light cuts through the darkness, and the iconic opening scenes of the film flicker onto the screen. You sit alone in the center of the theater, the black and white images vast before you, the dialogue and music filling the small space. For 2 hours, you are not alone. You are in Rick's Café Américain with Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman, caught up in their timeless story of love and sacrifice. You weep, not just for Ilsa and Rick, but for yourself, for the lost world, for the unbearable weight of all the stories that will never again be shared, never again be heard. When the film ends and the screen goes dark, the silence that returns is the most crushing you have yet experienced. The contrast is too stark. The brief illusion of companionship, of shared emotion, makes the reality of your solitude almost physically painful. You leave the cinema stepping back out into the too bright, too quiet afternoon, the ghosts of the film still clinging to you. The experience has taught you a valuable, if painful, lesson. While memories can be a comfort, they can also be a torment. Living too much in the past and what was lost only makes the present more unbearable. You need to find a way to exist in this new, silent reality, not just as a keeper of echoes, but as something more. But what? Chapter 4: The Uncanny Valley. Weeks, or perhaps months, have passed since the piano incident. You have developed routines, a fragile scaffolding to support the long, empty days. You forage for non-perishable food in the mornings, explore new sections of the city in the afternoons, and spend your evenings reading by lamplight. You'd found a cache of solar-powered lamps, or simply watching the stars from your high-rise balcony. Their silent, cosmic indifference, a strange sort of comfort. You've learned to filter out the sound ghosts, the tricks of the wind, and your own overstrained senses. The world is silent, and you are learning to accept it, or at least to endure it. But then the anomalies begin. It starts subtly. An object in your chosen apartment, a book you are certain you'd left on the coffee table, is back on the bookshelf. A door you know you'd closed is slightly ajar. At first, you dismiss it as your own forgetfulness, a symptom of the stress and isolation. Your mind, you reason, is playing tricks on you. But the occurrences become more frequent and more specific. One day, you return from an expedition to find a single perfect red apple sitting on your kitchen counter. You haven't brought it there. You haven't seen a fresh apple in months. All the produce in the stores has long since rotted or been consumed by insects and vermin. The only other living creatures you occasionally see, and even they seem scarcer than they should be. The apple is cool to the touch, its skin flawless. You stare at it for a long time, a cold dread mixing with a wild, irrational flicker of hope. Is someone else here? Playing a very strange, very cruel game? You leave the apple untouched, a silent sentinel on your counter. Then come the visual distortions. Fleeting moments where the edge of a building seems to shimmer, just for a second, like a heat haze on a summer road. Or a shadow falls in a way that doesn't quite match the angle of the sun. Sometimes, looking at your own reflection in a window, your image seems to lag a fraction of a second behind your movements. A ghostly after image. These are so brief, so ephemeral, that you constantly doubt your own perception. Are you truly losing your grip on reality? The most unsettling anomaly occurs during one of your mapping expeditions. You have decided to venture further than usual into a sprawling suburban area on the outskirts of the city. You are using an old, detailed street map you'd found in a deserted gas station. According to the map, you should be approaching a large park bisected by a river. Instead, you find yourself at the edge of a town that isn't on any map you possess. It isn't just an unfamiliar town, it is an uncannily familiar one. The style of the houses, the layout of the streets, the specific types of trees lining the sidewalks. It all resonates with a deep, half-forgotten sense of recognition. As you cycle slowly down the main street, a feeling of profound unease washes over you. This place feels like a dream, a distorted echo of something you know. You see a small blue house with a white picket fence and a sprawling rose bush by the porch. A house almost identical to the one your grandparents had lived in, a place you haven't visited in over a decade. Your heart pounds. You stop, your breath catching in your throat. The mailbox by the curb is a standard, unassuming black, but as you draw closer, you see something etched into its side, not painted, but seemingly carved into the metal itself, fine and spidery. Your own name, your blood runs cold. This is impossible. You stumble off your bicycle, your legs feeling weak. With trembling fingers, you open the mailbox. It is empty. You walk up the short path to the front door. It is unlocked. The interior of the house is a strange, unsettling mixture of the familiar and the alien. The layout is almost identical to your grandparents' home, but the furniture is subtly different. The wallpaper, a pattern you don't recognize. Yet, hanging on the wall in the hallway is a framed photograph of a little girl with pigtails and a gap-toothed grin, standing proudly beside a snowman. The little girl is unmistakably you, but you have no memory of that specific photograph, of that particular snowman. You move through the house as if in a trance. In what would have been your grandmother's sewing room, you find a child's drawing table scattered with crayons. On the table is a half-finished drawing of a stick figure, family, under a bright yellow sun. In the master bedroom, clothes lay folded on the bed, clothes that are your size, your style, but not items you own. This isn't just a town that resembles your past. It is a town that seems to be a personalized, slightly off-kilter replica of your memories, your life. A mirror town reflecting something that is both you and not you. The silence in this town is different too. It is heavier, more charged, as if holding its breath, waiting for something. The air feels thick, and the sunlight filtering through the windows seems to have a slightly artificial, theatrical quality. You back out of the house, slowly, your mind reeling. This can't be real. It has to be a hallucination, a product of your prolonged isolation. Yet the physicality of it, the cool metal of the mailbox, the texture of the wallpaper, the scent of dust and old wood, feels undeniably tangible. You flee the mirror town, cycling away as fast as your legs can carry you, not stopping until you are back in the familiar, if empty, streets of the city center. But the experience has shaken you to your core. The world is not just empty, it is becoming actively strange, personally tailored in its unsettling anomalies. The silence is no longer just an absence of sound. It feels like a canvas upon which something is trying to paint, or perhaps to communicate. But what and why? Chapter 5. The Celestial Cipher. The encounter with the mirror town leaves you deeply unsettled. The nature of your solitude has shifted. It is no longer a simple case of everyone disappearing. The world itself seems to be subtly, and sometimes overtly, rewriting its own rules around you. The red apple still sits on your counter, a perfect, untouched enigma. The fleeting visual distortions become a little more frequent, a little more pronounced. You start to document them meticulously in a journal, noting the time, place, and nature of each anomaly, searching for a pattern, any pattern, in the encroaching strangeness. Your nights are spent on the balcony of your high-rise sanctuary, gazing at the stars. In the absence of city lights, the celestial display is breathtaking. The Milky Way arches across the sky like a river of powdered diamonds. Nebulae glow with faint, ethereal colors, and constellations blaze with a clarity you have never witnessed before. The stars are your only constant, a distant, silent, unchanging audience to your solitary drama, or so you thought. One particularly clear night, as you were tracing the familiar outline of Orion, you noticed something odd. A star, one you don't recognize as being particularly bright, seems to pulse. Not twinkle, but pulse with a deliberate, rhythmic beat. Brighter, dimmer, brighter, dimmer. You watch it, mesmerized, your heart beginning to quicken. It is too regular to be atmospheric distortion. You scramble back inside, rummaging through a box of your father's old belongings you'd salvaged from his apartment weeks ago. He'd been an amateur astronomer and a bit of a history buff. You find what you were looking for: an old brass telescope and a battered copy of a book on Morse code. Setting up the telescope is a challenge, but your father had taught you the basics years ago. You focus it on the pulsing star. Through the lens, the light is clearer, its rhythm undeniable. Long pulse, short pulse, short pulse. Long, long, long. Short, long, short. Morse code. Your hands tremble as you flip through the faded pages of the code book. The silence of your apartment is broken only by the frantic rustle of paper and your own ragged breathing. You take a deep breath, trying to calm your racing mind. You watch the sky again, carefully noting the sequence. You spend hours that night, and the next, and the next, meticulously recording the blinking patterns from that single, insistent point of light in the vast, silent sky. You fill pages of your journal with dots and dashes, with counts of seconds. The message, when you finally piece it together, is not long. It is a single, chilling, electrifying word: A-W-A-K-E-N. Awaken. You stare at the word, scrawled in your own shaky handwriting. Awaken from what? Is this a message from other survivors, a coded call to rally? Or is it something else entirely? The word resonates with the strange, dreamlike quality of your existence, with the mirror town, with the impossible apple. Suddenly, the silence of your world doesn't feel empty. It feels charged, pregnant with meaning, as if it has been trying to tell you something all along, and you have only just learned the language. The anomalies, the sound ghosts, the pulsing star, are they all part of this message? The signal in the sky continues its rhythmic plea night after night. Awaken, awaken, awaken. It is a call to action, but to what and where? You look out over the silent, sleeping city, the familiar landscape now imbued with a new layer of mystery. The answer, you sense, is not out there among the empty streets and buildings you have so thoroughly explored. The answer lies somewhere else, somewhere hidden, somewhere connected to this strange, silent, and increasingly surreal world you inhabit. The celestial cipher has given you a direction, a purpose beyond mere survival. You have to find the source of this call, the meaning behind the command to awaken. Your journey into the silence is about to take a new, even stranger turn. Chapter 6: The Subterranean Heart. The word awaken pulses not just from the sky, but now within your own mind. It becomes your mantra, your compass. If you are meant to awaken, it implies you are, in some sense, asleep. But asleep to what? And where is the door out of this dream? If dream it is? You begin to think about the anomalies, the mirror town in particular. It had felt like a construct, a place designed with a strange personal resonance. If someone or something could create such a place, it would require power, technology, a hidden infrastructure. The signal in the sky is precise, deliberate. It isn't a natural phenomenon. Your search shifts from looking for people to looking for the source of the strangeness itself. You think about places of power, of advanced technology, of hidden research. The city has its share of research institutions, military bases on the outskirts, long since explored and found empty, and old forgotten industrial zones. One location, however, begins to surface in your mind with increasing insistence. It is a place you vaguely know from local lore, a place most people dismiss as an urban legend. A decommissioned Cold War-era research facility, supposedly buried deep beneath the old Northwood Hills, a sprawling, semi-wild park on the city's edge. Rumor has it that it was involved in some kind of experimental physics or consciousness research, though no official records ever confirm anything beyond a geological survey station. It is a long shot, a whisper of a possibility, but the celestial message feels like it is pushing you towards the unconventional, the hidden. Reaching Northwood Hills takes the better part of a day on your bicycle. The park is overgrown, nature already beginning to reclaim the manicured lawns and pathways. The silence here is different, filled with the rustle of leaves, the creak of branches, the distant caw of a crow. Natural sounds that are almost shocking after the profound stillness of the city. You spend days searching, using an old speculative map of the supposed facility you'd found online years ago and printed out, more as a curiosity than with any expectation of ever needing it. The map is vague, marking a general area. You look for unusual land contours, old disguised ventilation shafts, anything that might hint at a subterranean structure. Finally, hidden beneath a dense thicket of rhododendrons behind a crumbling stone retaining wall, you find it. A heavy steel door, rusted and half overgrown with ivy, set into the side of a hill. It looks ancient, forgotten. There is no handle, no visible lock, only a small circular indentation in the metal. Your heart pounds. This has to be it. You press your palm against the indentation. Nothing. You try pushing, pulling. The door remains stubbornly, immovably shut. Frustration gnaws at you. Have you come all this way for nothing? You sit down on the damp earth, staring at the door. Awaken, you whisper, the word feeling potent, a key. As if in response, a faint hum emanates from the door, a low, almost sub-audible vibration that you feel more in your bones then hear with your ears. The circular indentation begins to glow with a soft, internal blue light, the same ethereal blue as the pulsing star. Instinctively, you press your palm to it again. This time, there is a soft click, a hiss of released pressure, and the massive steel door slides inwards with a surprising smooth silence, revealing a dark, descending passageway. The air that wafts out is cool, sterile, and carries the faint metallic scent of ozone and old machinery. With a deep breath, your solar-powered flashlight clutched tightly in your hand, you step across the threshold into the darkness beneath the earth. The passageway slopes downwards for what feels like a long time, lit only by your flashlight beam and occasional dimly glowing emergency lights set into the walls. The silence here is absolute, a tomb-like stillness that is even more profound than the city above. The only sound is the soft crunch of your footsteps on the gritty concrete floor and the thumping of your own heart. Finally, the passage opens into a vast circular chamber. The room is dimly lit by panels in the ceiling that pulse with the same soft, blue light as the door mechanism and the star. And in the center of the room, arranged in concentric circles, are pods, dozens of them, sleek, ovoid metallic structures like giant, futuristic seed casings. Each one is about 7 feet long with a translucent panel on its upper surface. Most are dark, but as you draw closer, you see that faint lights flicker on small control panels beside each one. You walk slowly among them, your flashlight beam dancing across their surfaces. They are all closed, all seemingly empty. The air hums with a low, powerful energy, a sense of immense dormant technology. Then you see it. In the very center of the room, on a slightly raised dais, is a single pod that is different. Its translucent panel is not dark, but glows with a soft, internal white light, and the control panel beside it is more active, its lights blinking in a steady, rhythmic sequence. With a growing sense of dread and dawning, impossible understanding, you approach it. You peer through the glowing panel. Inside, lying still and peaceful, as if in a deep sleep, is a figure. It is you, or rather a perfect, identical replica of you. Same hair, same features, even the small, crescent-shaped scar above your left eyebrow. This other you is wearing simple, white, pajama-like clothing. You stumble back, a gasp catching in your throat. What is this? Are you looking at yourself? Is this why you were meant to awaken? Your gaze falls upon the active console beside this central occupied pod. Unlike the others, this one has a small screen that is illuminated. On it, a single line of text blinks slowly in the same ethereal blue. Primary awakening in progress. Do you wish to exit simulation? Below the text are 2 illuminated buttons, yes and no. Simulation. The word hits you with the force of a physical blow. This world, your silent city, the mirror town, the pulsing star, the impossible apple, all of it, a simulation? Has your entire experience of the past weeks, months, been nothing more than a complex, artificially generated dream? The implications are staggering, terrifying. If this is a simulation, then what is real? Is the world outside this facility still teeming with people? Have they not vanished at all? Are you the one who has been absent? The console hums softly, the question blinking patiently. Do you wish to exit simulation? Your hand hovers over the yes button. To exit, to return to what? To a real world you no longer know if you can trust? Or to stay here in this silent, strange, but increasingly understood reality you have navigated, survived? and in some ways, even come to know? What if the real world is worse? What if the simulation, for all its loneliness and strangeness, is a refuge? But the message from the stars, the core of your being, screams one word: awaken. This pod, this console, this is the awakening you have been called to. With a trembling finger, a heart full of fear, and a desperate, fragile hope, you press yes. Epilogue. The sound of a knock. The world dissolves. Not in a flash of light or a cacophony of sound, but in a gentle, unraveling sigh. The blue glow of the subterranean chamber, the hum of the machinery, the sight of your own sleeping form in the pod, it all seems to stretch, to thin, to become translucent, like a watercolor painting left out in the rain. There is a sensation of immense, rushing speed, yet also of profound stillness, a feeling of falling, yet also of being held. And then darkness, a soft, velvety darkness, not empty, but full of potential, like the moment just before dawn. And then light, sunlight, warm, familiar, filtering through half-open blinds. You lie in your bed, in your own room. The book, The Starless Sea, is on your nightstand. The glass of water, the crack in the ceiling like a leaping cat. You sit bolt upright, your heart hammering, your breath coming in ragged gasps. Your hand flies to your phone. 9:41 a.m., the same time, the exact same moment you had woken up in the simulation. You look around wildly. Everything is identical. The oppressive silence. Is it still there? You strain your ears, and then you hear it. Faintly, so faintly at first, you think you might be imagining it, but then growing stronger, more distinct. The distant, cheerful chirping of sparrows, the rumble of a truck down the street, the muffled sound of a neighbor's television. Sounds, the ordinary, beautiful, chaotic sounds of a living world. Tears stream down your face, tears of disbelief, of overwhelming relief, of a joy so profound, it is almost painful. It is real. This is real. You scramble out of bed, your legs unsteady. You rush to the window, flinging aside the curtain. The street below is alive. Cars move. People walk, chatting, laughing, their voices a symphony. The daily grind has a queue snaking out its door. The red ball is gone from the playground, replaced by the shrieks and laughter of children. It is all back. Or rather, you are back. You stand there for a long time, just drinking it in, the glorious, mundane noise of life. The silence has been a part of you for so long. Its absence is like a physical sensation, a lightness, a freedom. Then a new sound. Sharp, distinct. A knock at your apartment door. You freeze. Your blood runs cold, then hot. Who? You move slowly, hesitantly towards the door. Your hand trembles as you reach for the doorknob. You take a deep breath and pull it open. A woman stands in the hallway. She is of average height, with kind eyes and a gentle, knowing smile. She wears simple, unassuming clothes. You have never seen her before in your life. The woman looks at you, that soft smile widening slightly. Finally, the woman says, her voice calm and warm, "You're awake. We were beginning to worry." You can only stare, 1,000 questions swirling in your mind, but one overriding feeling. The silence is truly broken. The world, in all its noisy, vibrant, unpredictable glory, is about to begin again.